You ever hire someone to provide a service for you and then they up their price, right? So I hired a guy when I first bought my house to cut my grass, right? And the price was very reasonable. But then this summer, he doubled his price, right? For whatever reason. I politely declined and told him that I would just find someone else, right? Not a big deal, no argument, no problem. At least I didn't think that there was going to be a problem. But then a few days later, I happen to see him outside and he looks over at my lawn and he says, I'm not cutting your grass anymore. So I didn't respond out loud, but in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I already knew that. So at this point, I'm just thinking there's really no reason for me to say anything because nothing extraordinary is happening here, right, in this situation. So then I see him about 2 days later. And then he makes the same announcement, right? He's like, I'm not cutting your grass anymore. So I'm saying to myself, like, am I having deja vu? Like, what's happening here? Like, I remember we already talked about this. This is now the third time that we've confirmed that you're not going to cut my grass, right? So I'm just like, okay, he must have assumed that I didn't hear him the first 2 times, like whatever, right? So now the third time, yes, it's the third time. This time he's out there, right? But there's like some other people around, there's some other neighbors around, right? And he says to them, like, I'm not cutting her grass anymore. But he says it loud enough because it's like he wants me to hear him, right? So, but now he actually got my attention, right? Because now I'm curious. Because at this point, he's no longer just giving information, right? It started to dawn on me that he's actually waiting for a reaction. And he wants someone to ask him why. But no one happened to ask him anything. So I'm thinking he wants people to hear that his service is stopped and that it was important, right? And maybe he needs people to understand that he chose to stop, or he, instead of people thinking that I'm the person that just replaced him, right? And for whatever reason, right, repeating a decision after everyone has already heard it usually means that the information was not the entire point. And a lot of the time, people announce what they are no longer going to be doing because they want their absence to be noticed, right? And they want somebody to react that they're not there again. So if they don't get the reaction that they're looking for the first time, they'll do it again. And that made me think about emotional time travel, because how much of what he says in the present is really an attempt to get a response that he learned that he needed from another time and another place, right? And from somebody else, right? But capacity architecture in this situation matters because it's those moments that you need enough capacity to make decisions without turning it into everybody else's reaction as proof that your decision mattered. So it's fine. You don't have to cut my grass. I mean, I don't want to pay for it, right? But you don't need to make a whole press conference about it. Capacity is designed. It's about time. And you might want to see my grass. If you know anybody who's cutting grass, let me know.